I would like to say we understand that insecurity is on the high rise, particularly kidnapping and banditry in that region, and particularly the Natarawa state government is seeing reasons for them to call for licensing of arms. However, we need to understand that licensing of arms takes a very long procedure and has some stringent conditions attached to it. I wouldn't say the call by the governor of Nasarawa State would make much difference in the process of licensing because most likely it is a call that will just make us understand how polarized the environment is and how unsafe it is. However, I would say the governor did not call for licensing for everybody. Precisely, it was of a top interest of 500 licensing or 500 licenses for mainly traditional leaders and notable individuals in their states. But we should understand that the security of lives and property of everyone is of pertinent importance. So I'll say it's not a bad call, but the call might not yield as much result as people would have expected, because I saw the release. The release looked like an instruction, but an instruction to the office of the high is going to be an information from the governor. So there will still be a lot of legislative framework around it. If you look to it, you will see that they've also not made any legislative framework. And we would not like Nigeria to become a country like the US, where there are more arms, small light arms and guns in circulation than even the number of citizens in the state. Neither would we want a situation where we'll be having school shooting, different people carrying arms to shoot at different places simply because they have licenses to gun and because they have some mental issues. So all those things are things that would be considered in the long run, and those are things that will affect who get the licenses and when the licenses will be released. I also noted that the government is willing to employ more people of safety in their state. But one thing I want us to notice, security should not be selective. It should be general. Thank you.
Lookman, you just said that the governor is saying a specific number of people. Now, the question is, how is he going to profile those that will use the gun the way assiduously as he expect them to use it, when some other people are not having? And when we don't have, as everyone except those licensed, like the military and the police, we have this problem. Now, when we give to a certain number of people that you cannot vouch for their usage of that same weapon, do you think that state will be safe than what it is today?
Hello, I can't get the last part of your question. Do you think that?
And what I'm saying is that you said that the governor says he's going to give to a specific number of people, not everyone in the state. Now, what I'm saying is, how would he profile those to be given in terms of practicalizing what they're going to use that rifle for? Have we understood that even today, only the military and the police have that license to use guns? Now, if everyone is given, or that specific number is given, do you think it will be fruitful for everyone living in the state?
I'll simply say the interest of the state is the interest of security, but the conditions around giving out licenses will be that done by the police. There are already listed conditions on ground initially, and I want to believe this call will also make the police increase even the conditions on licensing. If we look through the situation critically, we will realize that the government of the state is trying to do its best in protecting the lives and properties of citizens. But the government is also very careful that a major target in recent times has been their traditional leaders they are notable persons, and that is why they feel licensing should go to those persons. Um, but if we look at it on the long run, what we would really look at and say about it is, are these people really capable of using the licenses? Are these people really the security personnel to use the licenses? Because when you, let me assume you are giving me a license to use a ham, and I don't know how to identify crime or criminals. I don't know what conditions um, will be satisfied before I can even raise the ham or shoot a bullet into the air. Those are things that are within the curfews of the police, and that is why the police will be doing a lot in this. But I want to believe for now, the call by the governor is simply a call for funds. He has said funds should be distributed, but just like I said, funds are distributed does not mean licenses will be issued automatically to everyone. So I'll say there is no cause for fear, there is no cause for alarm. We are all seeing the trends that are happening globally, especially in places where licenses have been issued to almost every citizen. And we are also going to be very careful to ensure that Nigeria does not get into a situation that the licensing of arms will create more problem for us than solution. Thank you.
All right, Lookman. Now, to the government is saying it will issue these licenses to specific individuals. Now, what about certain institutions, maybe like schools or churches? Like we've seen in recent times, a lot of churches are going through a lot of attacks, and some schools, especially in those high-risk states. Now, can they, as a body, apply for those licenses, or is it going to be an individual, maybe the head of that institution, who has to make a personal application to possess that firearm or firearms, as the case may be?
Yes, in the case of those institutions that you are referring to, I want you to understand that by the police and other security agencies to ensure that we have a deployment to those places. So once we have a deployment there, there is no need for anyone to request for a license because you had a church. It would not be in any way polite for a clergy to be the one in charge of a license, or for a clergy to be the one reported to have shot someone. Neither will the same apply to the educational sector and the likes. So most likely we'll be seeing deployment go to those areas, and those deployments will help us stem the tide of insecurity in that area. Thank you.
Now, back to Zamfara State, where the governor is the one we're looking at his state now. He says they should license some people. And then the commissioner of police in that state is saying that the ban on rifles or firearms is still in force. Now, when you look at this warning and counter warnings, you discover that people get confused. Where do they go? Is it to follow what the governor is saying because of the situation we're passing through, or sticking to what the commissioner is saying because the proliferation of firearms into the society will cause more chaos? Where do they really stand now?
The people are to understand that the governor is concerned about their safety, as well as the police are also concerned about their safety. There is a pending directive by the Office of the IGP to stop the issuance of licenses for the purpose of light and guns. The governor is making this call, but I don't want to use the word that there's been a miss of protocol somewhere within the line. But I want to accept that there has been a miss of communication somewhere within the lines, because if there had been clearer communication, the governor would have firstly gone to do a legislative work on it, gone to the presidency to do the presidency's part of the assignment before coming to the public to make a pronouncement. Because a pronouncement that has not been synchronized with the office of the IGP, and don't let me say would be a total pronouncement. But for now, the CP of the state is taking directives from the IGP, and we still have to consult the IGP before he can do any other thing. Thank you.
Okay, and I think I'll just do a quick one before we go on a break to go on with the second part. Now, some states, are not also wondering if these licenses will be granted to individuals in their states, because right now, the major state in focus seems to be Zamfara state, and we know insecurity is not just limited to Zamfara. It's spread all over the country. So is it going to be, it's looking like a sectional thing for just a particular state or region. Is this thing going to spread around to every other state, as in those individuals who will be granted to it? Or is it just limited to a certain state or some states in the north?
Yes, and for now, it's a call by a governor, which I felt should have been discussed at the governor's forum before the pronouncement is made. Because anything that applies to a state in Nigeria will most likely apply to most other states, except it has been discussed at the governor's forum extensively. So I think, just like I said, there is still some serious work for the governor to be done, or to be done by the governor behind the scene, and that will determine the successes of either the CP responding to his call or the CP simply sticking to the directives of the IGP. But I understand that the CP will stick directly to the instructions of the IGP, which is the directives in the initial communique, and that will still be one of those things that the government of Nasarawa State needs to go and work out behind the scene before further actions can be taken. Because even if the government has a copy of the arm license or the form for application for licensing, does not mean you submit your license today and automatically you get a license. There is still a lot of things that need to be considered behind the scene. So I'll say the governor is very much concerned about the safety of the citizenry. The police is also concerned about the safety of the citizenry. All other security agencies are also concerned. But we have to work hand in hand at the back end before we come to public space to make pronouncements. So I would say the CP is not confused. Neither is the governor also confused. But the governor, I want to believe his call is just to expedite some discussions or interactions that engagements is having behind the scene. So hopefully the result will be out very soon. But right now, the call is not an express directive for anyone to get a license. Thank you.
Okay, Lookman, before we take a break, let me ask you this one. Now, if you go to Zamfara, they have this problem. If you go to Borno State, they have this problem. If you go to Imo State, the governor is complaining. If you go to Ondo State, the governor is looking for more Motekun officials. And then also in Oyo State, are you saying with all these, wouldn't it be better or fairer to say this government of APC has failed this country because they cannot provide this most important thing to the people, the security of the people? And that's the first thing they signed to do, to protect lives and property. Now lives are in ruins at every stage. Do you think they're still fit to say they're governing this country?
For me, it will be erroneous to say the government of anybody has failed the people because they've been unable to provide adequate security as expected. Because the role of security is the role of men in uniform and men in the intelligence sector. It is not the job of the Mr. Governor or Mr. President. It is not the job of any political office holder to be in charge of managing intelligence. The only job political office holders have in security, you fund and approve recommendations when there is need. So there are not men on the road. I know the men in uniform will do it. You have to expect what is to get out of things before they happen. Then most likely the country will get better safety wise and security wise.
All
Although
right.
I understand that the security agencies are underfunded, we can't compare the funding we use in Nigeria with that of other countries. I would also want to accept that the citizens have a role on information management because at times you feel bad when you see these incidents happen and you are opportune to interrogate or interview one or two persons and they are like, we saw something yesterday, we saw something some days ago, we saw some signs, but we didn't see reasons to report it. No, we felt if we had reported it, it's a failed system. So that is why we didn't report it. And eventually when that thing strikes them, they now begin to make comments of such. It is even better for you to have said, I have reported, and they did not work on it, than to say, I saw something, but I felt because the system is a failure. That is why I did not give the intelligence information to the men in law enforcement. So everyone has a role to play in ensuring that the country gets safer.
Now, with the government granting these licenses for firearms, now who's going to be in charge of, let's say, distribution, sales? Is it going to be something that has to be a government's own thing, or is it going to be privatized? Will people, private individuals, be able to sell arms to people? Probably have a shooting range where people will go in, test themselves, and know the kind of firearm they want? Or is it going to be like individuals have to go into a police station or whatever, and whatever they can pay for, they pick it up and go with it?
Okay, yes. If I want to look into the issue of licensing, I want us to understand that we have a legal market to buy guns in the office of the force headquarters. So, as part of the procedure for licensing, you would be instructed to go and get a particular arm. And precisely, we need to understand that military grade ammunitions are not to be licensed for civilians. So, civilians don't determine the type of guns they get. It is the security agencies that determine the type of guns that will be licensed. And at the same time, a license is for a particular gun. So not because you have an arm license, you will now say, I have an arm license to carry a pistol, then you want to carry AK-47. It's a no-no. You're only going to be licensed to carry the specific gun in which you are issued at the point of processing your licensing. So have gun clubs in this part of the country or in this part of the world. And I would say most of our law enforcement officers know where the clubs are, go there to train and train at regular intervals. So people will still be directed to go to the clubs to go and train and learn to use the ammunition. So you can't just give a arm out to anyone without the person being trained. People will still have to go through some medical and psychological tests to ascertain that they are medically fit and they are psychologically okay for the purpose of managing and procuring a firearm. So there are a lot of things around just licensing. It is not just a paper, you pick a paper, sign, submit, and the next morning you are called to come and get a license. I would say even the conditions for getting a arm license is far, far more stringent than getting a driver's license. There will be some other things which I will not want to mention, but I know the procedure is very hard. It's not a simple procedure, and the licenses shall not just be for any big canary. But just like I said, the call by the governor of Nasarawa State is a call out of concern, but there is need for a lot of background and legislative framework to be concluded before such calls should even be made at certain instances. because based on what we can even see, they've not even done a legislative framework in their state. Neither have they concluded official arrangements within the police and with the presidency before coming out with these statements. So I would not want to state categorically that anyone will get an automatic harm because he requested to get a harm license. It's a no-no.
Time after time, we've seen the police mopping up arms from the society, and at that, they couldn't get their total hand on it. And the reason they always give is that they don't want these arms to get into wrong hands for wrong uses or wrong purposes. Yet, they couldn't get through. Do you really think that the police we have today will authorize that kind of license into any state governor or any state government, understanding that there are some unscrupulous people right in the society who make do with arms to rob people, to do other things, especially now that we have insecurity everywhere in the country? Do you think the police will be that magnanimous enough to say, this state, okay, we're giving you this license, you can get this caliber of arms? Do you think it's possible?
Just like I said, it's not a directive that this state, we are giving you this license. And we should understand that the illegal arms market is a very big market. It's a global market. Illegal arms market. It involves people who do smuggling and a lot of illegal things. And for no reason will illegality become legal because of a call for licensing. No, it would not be. So don't let us assume that because there is a call for licensing, for such reasons we'll be having the illegal market come to the front burner to play. The illegal market knows that they are illegal, knows that the security agencies are out for them, looking for them seriously, looking for those who imported them, looking for those who support the importation, looking for those who trade in them, and the likes. So this call for licensing will not be a call to encourage the illegal markets, because the illegal arms market would not be allowed to flourish in Nigeria, and that is the truth.
And to every Nigerian who hears this call, he will be so happy about it, just like you. Now, let me place you in the shoe of the president. If you were the president of this country for now, and you hear this call from almost all the states in the federation, and never have you ever heard people saying, let us have arms freely, won't you think that you've been clueless in your, you're running the country? Won't you think that the country is above you?
Just like you said, if I am the president, if I have these calls from multiple states, there are simple decisions I would take. And one of that decision, really the head of all forces, because that shows that they might not have been doing their work as much as expected. The second is to look at what are the challenges they presented forward that they are having, with the aim of looking for solutions to those challenges. And the third is to remove and replace, if there is need, the head of some security agencies for the purpose of stemming and encouraging seriousness. And whoever will be replaced will most likely be acting. So if I were president, I'll be taking some drastic steps to ensure that we increase and improve the security in the state. But just like I said initially, we understand that funding is a major challenge, especially for security agencies. I will not from that. I also want to accept the fact that state governments have a role to play in funding. It is not because the security agencies are government. The state also a role as the CSO of their respective to look into what logistic amenities they have. Call the head of security agencies. Many you have to respond. What is your response time? Citizens, what is the response time? Start with mobilizing them with enough vehicles. Then, okay, what happens to your arms? Do you have some, if the arms are not sufficient, do we need to request back to the office of the IG to provide you with more arms? And we also need to look at the welfare of those men, because a discourage will not be able to do his work as diligent as possible on the road. So we need to begin to look at, okay, what welfare do these people have? What welfare do their families enjoy? What welfare do families of people who have lost their lives in the national service also? Because at times, men are very funny as individuals. Men will commit their life to any cause when they see that every other thing they care about is protected. So that would also be some of those things one should look at if I were to be. Thank you.
Okay, and I'll ask one more, but this time it will have two approaches. Now, for these licenses, can you name some of the conditions that will one has to fulfill to be enabled to get a license? And how watertight is the security going to be? I know this seems to have been asked, but how watertight is the security going to be? Knowing that we still have some people who are not documented, and we still have people who come in through illegal means through our borders and are even able to procure things like the national identity card. So how watertight is this security going to be, and what is the assurance that the control will be very effective, at least to a level whereby every so-called licensed individual is traceable?
Firstly, I want to say I understand that some individuals already have the license, and there are procedures for renewing the license, which many of them do go through regularly. So I would want to also accept that security agencies need to stem up action towards ensuring that they control Nigeria into Nigeria and now be able to account for non-Nigerians in Nigeria, and as well the actions of non-Nigerians in Nigeria. But I would not say, and I would not agree, that the crimes we are seeing, kidnapping, banditry, robbery, and the likes, are done by non-Nigerians. It is just like trying to honorate Nigerians from the crime. The fact is that people are people. Some people will be good people, just like I used to say, and some people will also want to remain as bad people. How about security agencies to try to control those who are trying to go against the law and do things that are illegal and do things that will keep them and the right places? So say this license Boaha is just a Boaha. The conditions for getting the license, just like I said, one will need to have learned to use a ham, would have gone to a training center, approved training center. Don't just let me use the word training to learn to use the hams, gone through medical tests, some psychological tests, some emotional tests. And after some months, skills through all this, that one will be. And even if you have a license and you are issued a ham license, does not give you the right to fling the hams or carry the hams in presence of everybody, anyhow. So those things are still going to be watched, because the time for renewal, I think, is 6 months. So when you want to come back to new sense, if you mismanage your license, I have not talked about now, you mistakenly shot at the wrong place. If you shoot at the wrong place, even if it's into the air, your license might be withdrawn automatically. But when you didn't even shoot at this, but we're just flouting the government people just to make them know, yes, I have it. I think I can threaten any one of the likes, your hammer and license might be revoked, and you might not be able to subsequent. And whoever gets his or her ham license revoked at one point or the other might most likely not have access to the license for life. So down it, and let people approach the police, the office of the CP, with a license. That is normal procedure. They will get a form. They will then go through the procedure. A lot of people have gone and procedure, and for such reasons do not have the right to carry arms. So if you say such persons are in possession of an illegal ammunition, instead the word illegal has indicted them from inception, and if they are caught with it, they will be made to face the wrath of the law.
One of the basic things that is calling for this insecurity, and perhaps are looking for licenses of arms now, is poverty. Now, let's take Zamfara, for instance, the state that the governor is saying that we should go for arms now. If you go to Zamfara state, if you've been privileged to travel to the place, you can see poverty from a distance. You can see weariness from a distance. You can see rejection from a distance. And when you are licensing some people, when you've not been able to provide for them those basic things that could make them hold on to those rifles to defend others, do you think they will not use that same arms, if given to them, as a means of also going in for this these strong things that they are doing, like, okay, we're going for kidnapping, we're going to banditry because we now have a license, just like the army does, just like the police do too. Don't you think the first approach would have been organizing these people to such a level that they can stay a little bit above poverty lane before giving them that, because there will be assurance. As it is now, if Zamfara State is giving license to some people, don't you think they will also form another gang to go against the government?
I would not want to use, or I would not want us to use the word Zamfara State is giving license. It is not the responsibility of the state government to give license. It is the responsibility of the police to give license, not the state. So it is only for the state to call on the police and for the police to either oblige or reject. But I want to say, based on the conditions around even getting a ham license, it is not going to be easy for anyone, especially people who are below the poverty line, to get a license. Neither would it be possible for anyone who is not traceable, and not accountable to get the license. The license shall be to specific individuals who, after going through all the requirements, have been certified as okay to acquire it. And in the situation, individuals in the nearest future are seriously like revoked. And if we are having such on the high side, then most likely the conditions to acquire the license will be reviewed, and also to manage everything that comes up. We are also what is happening in other countries. Like that been issued to non-military personnel, and we've seen a lot of funny cases. I would not want to start mentioning cases, but we've seen cases where someone will just wake up and get on the street and say, because I don't like you, because you look like someone who stole a car yesterday morning, and he just decides to shoot at you. You just see that very well, or it's a wrong action he has taken. So such persons will be charged, will be charged for attempted murder, will be charged for misuse of the license, and the license will be revoked. So there are a lot of instances like that. You see a lot of school shootings outside the country. You see a lot of other incidences that have happened in countries where guns have been licensed, and where most of those individuals, you would hear that they are licensed to use a gun. So we don't want such to happen in Nigeria. We have to ensure that nothing close to such happens here. So by Zamfara State, for 500 licenses precisely, does not mean that the police will even issue 10 licenses to anybody in Zamfara State within the next 1 year. So just like I said, it's a call for concern because of the insecurity in the state. It will also put the security agencies on their toes, but I would say there is no cause for alarm right now. So let's just put our mind at rest. The call will not be selective, or the licensing has not been selective and will not be selective to of a particular state alone. It's a no-no. It's only for people who are allowed or who have been licensed. And recent times, instead of even licensing, the security agencies are looking at attaching some officers from the SPU, the Self-Protection Unit, to those individuals instead of licensing a harm to such persons. So there are a lot of things around licensing. Just like I said, you applying for license does not mean you automatically get the license. So I'm right now. Let's just look at what will happen on the document within the next 1, 2, 3 weeks, because I understand there will be a lot of engagements both with the legislative of the state, with the judiciary of the state, with the federal agencies concerned, with the Ministry of Interior, and with the Office of Presidency and the Army. So there is a lot behind the scene. If all those things are not concluded, and the license will not be issued to anybody on the called by the Chief Security Officer of the state. The Chief Security Officer of the country also has a need to get that information, and no security officer of the state wants that and must be convinced that the Chief Security Officer of the state is something he has to give a nod to. I will not be able to even give a nod personally, because there is an Armed License Act, which means there is still a legislative work to be done at the level of the National Assembly apart from the State Assembly. So there is a lot to be done. Don't let us be focused on the call to issue 500 licenses. It's automatic. A lot needs to be done behind the scene. And I know a lot of engagement will be going as we speak, because there's a call for concern. Insecurity is everywhere around the country. Those that have even gotten to the extent of trying to bring in neighborhood policing in the name of Amotekun and the likes. We know the challenges they are having, and we can all see the challenges. And that is why, from inception, it's a problem of intelligence management, problem of accessing intelligence. If we project or we manage as it should have been easy for the security agencies to nip your work case in the bud, and it would not have even at all. If intelligence were provided as it should, even happen by mistake, it would have been easier for the security agency to say today we've been able to Mr. A, B, and C connection. The same applies to so many other things around the country. So it shows that mission of Econ and other neighborhood systems giving us what we want. At this time, as when they came up with it, we argue was a concept. Even from the point of those who were to head, who were retired senior military men and paramilitary men, the realization for such was not looking too nice for the purpose of safety and national security. They realized that some people wanted to use such to hide under it, to perpetrate some ethnic sin or ethnic profiling. And so for such reasons, we can see that we have been down now. We can see that even the Amotekun in the southwest is not functioning in all states in the southwest. And not all governors of the southwest has adopted it. So there's security. It goes beyond just the paperwork. It goes beyond going to the press to make noise. It involves a lot of serious behind the scenes work before one comes to make a very serious statement that will have very serious implications.
Okay, Lookman. One more before we go. Now, we're looking at an instance whereby all the states, all their governors are going to now embark on a massive call that their states should also be granted licenses. Do you think this will work for now, or is it some other case that might need further legislation and looking into before the president finally decides to assent on it?
Yes, I would not be surprised if I see more states calling for the same thing, but beyond just saying you want to license people, I have said we need to first look at the established security agencies. What have we done to balance and improve those security agencies? It is when those have we realize they can give, it's when the government can now say, okay, let us begin to license arms for civilians. And then licensing arms for civilians, just like I've said, some of the conditions that are involved. We would not want someone who has a very low emotional intelligence or a very loose control of his ego to be the one managing arms. Even the ones are managed by our law enforcement officers. At certain instances, we have one or two hiccups, and they are even reviewed at times. I would not be wrong to inform you that last year there were some government officers who had access to use arms, but as at today, they've been stopped from using it simply because of one action or the other, which they might have done at one place or the other that called for, and they've been court-martialed. The process has been reviewed, and so that's saying if we are having such within even our security agencies, still managing the issues of emotional intelligence, managing harms, management, and the likes, will not, as a government, just go straight into licensing arms to civilians. It is not a good idea right now. You know what it means to license arms to someone who believes that some people of another tribe are their enemies, or to some people of another religion are their enemies, or to someone who believes others are their enemies, just keep creating more problems for the country. And we will not want such type of problem because it's a problem for the country. But by the time those problems are coming up, so many lives might have been lost. The purpose for even licensing would now be defeated. So I understand that a lot needs to be done before the High License Act can be reviewed. And let us just something for us to.
All right, Lookman. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it, and we hope people out there, our viewers, have been able to understand the workings behind the licensing,
the call for the license,
the calls for it, and the implications also, whereby when these licenses are issued, what it might come with. But we hope to see that it will be a measured and well-coordinated development. Thank you once again, and we wish you a pleasant day ahead.
Thank you very much. I want to appeal to Nigerians to help the security agencies. We know we have a very big shortfall of men in uniform compared to some other countries. And we would rely on intelligence provided by anybody who can be of help to also improve the workings of our men in uniform and our men in law enforcement. So security of lives and properties is not only the responsibility of a government in quotes, but we are all the government. So it is the responsibility of everyone. Let us try our best to do our own part, and the country will be better and for you. Thank you.
Thank you too.
Thank you very much.
All right, bye now.